Oh.
Visual.
Yeah, 1 second.
You do the American flag?
Yes. So there we go. I was like, everybody can see us. But now, whenever he hits the gavel, you'll hit transition.
Hey, Q, you want to lead us in the Texas flag? Yep, that's you. Just for you. Just for you. We do have cheating materials. All right.
Dude, you gotta give me 1:30 minutes.
I should have extras up here.
Where are you? Come on, man.
No, they're gone.
We've got a jet port out there now. You're gonna take jet speed. It's 55 miles an hour. 1 hour, city, 30. I know. Maybe it's cheap. Sometimes. That's exactly right. There's the day I was out there. Oh, they told you it was not all the silver boys. Walking around with the. They didn't know. They didn't get they were looking at all kinds of stuff. So, one of us, he just joined the ROTC. They're most great. So one of them is getting, he just signed up, he's doing next week's prices, he's getting the aviation stuff at the school, so he's on some extra, so I'm trying to get out more. You know, they were I'm still working on mom at that point.
I just remember because we recently
Test.
did that.
That's the problem.
Yeah, when the batteries get low.
That's what we get to know.
So he's not really
The 14. So you can solo it. That's right. You can sign up for 7-4 on a pretty big work.
Roger, you're good on number 5, sir?
We're still working on one.
Give us a little update.
Okay, number 5?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll give you an update.
Sir?
Yeah, brother had a plan.
I knew you were.
Figure out the scare or what?
You're awesome like
Oh,
that.
she wouldn't let anybody.
I try to help out as much as I can.
Because that was my brother dead. That's understandable.
Oh, I don't know if they finished it, but they did really good out there. There's a lot of those places I've seen, it made a lot of headway.
Yeah, no.
They never said if they were done.
I haven't been up there.
Okay. And I didn't drive the length to look at it. We
Right.
didn't cross it, but I didn't look at all of it. That part.
I want to get an actual, actually.
Yeah.
But it is looking really good.
You good? Our full board meeting on this wonderful Thursday, March 7th at 4:30 is called to order. I will turn my mic on, that might help. Airport board meeting on March 7th, called to order at 4:30. We have Hugh McFarland, Greg Moe, Bob Bartlett, myself, John Williams, our wonderful secretary, Alice, and the great councilman, Eddie Lowry, only for a short period of time.
Use me or abuse me.
We're going to until you're gone. And then, last but not least, our new airport director, Vicki Harper. Invocation is going to be done by our Councilman Eddie Lowry. And then Dixie Harper's going to lead us with the American flag and cue for the Texas flag.
Let's all stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we love you today. We are thankful, Lord, for the blessings that you have sent our way. Thankful, Lord, for the city of Cleveland and for this airport board. God, we ask for wisdom and knowledge and understanding in everything that we do. Lord, we want to bring glory and honor to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Face the American flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
John, I'd like to say one thing. Today is my anniversary and married 43 years.
Bless your wife, bless your wife.
She said that if she'd have shot me when we first got married, she'd be out of jail by now.
I think we all ought to give her a round of applause. If y'all know Eddie Lowry, she's the son.
Well, speaking of anniversary, somebody else has an anniversary today.
You've been married 1 year today?
Married Tuesday.
You left that door open. I sure did. Yeah, you did. I knew better than that, honestly. But congratulations. 1 year, that's awesome. And she started out as the assistant.
Deputy.
Or deputy.
Deputy secretary.
Deputy secretary, and then got promoted. Just moving on up. Have Scott job for too. Okay, we don't have any 3-minute public comments for number 3, so I'm going to skip that. And do number 4, approve minutes for February 1st. We have a board meeting, and we got the minutes.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Y'all need a copy?
if you don't mind.
I just printed my own.
Okay.
I think Alice is
No, you're
here
good.
now.
So we're gonna make sure we see if you want. Did you get one? Do you need one? Okay. You got one ready?
Yes.
You got it? Okay. Everybody good on that? Still reading?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of February 1st.
I have a motion by Eddie Lowry, a second by Bob Bartlett to accept the meeting minutes for February 1st, 2024. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Discussion of possible action on the following. 5, airport inspection projects. We're going to ask Rogers, who is our public works director, to step up here to the podium if he doesn't mind. Give us a little bit of an update on everything he's doing, and then Vicky's going to give us an update on everything else. And for, like I said, y'all don't know, Roger is the Public Works Director for the city, and does an incredibly awesome job at the airport. Keeps us going all the time, fixes all of our stuff.
Good afternoon. Just want to get an update. I know the last couple of times that they had excessive rain that was kind of putting us back onto doing some work over that. So this week they did some work and forward to finish up. They have a little small amount left to go, but it should be done by tomorrow. But we have almost completed the other side, the east side, all the way down to 77 both ways. So everything should be done by tomorrow. As far as the runway, along the runway, bringing up off the elevation. Just a little bit more.
Yeah, so for the people that don't know what you're referring to, is the runway, part of the inspection was that we needed to bring the edge of our runway up within an inch of the top of the runway on the side, all the way down the entire 5,000 foot of the runway, and basically that will be done.
Tomorrow we complete.
Anything else, or you?
And then I'm gonna work on the, sure if you can bring it up, make sure that our wind socket is in compliance. So whatever one's there, is a duplicate on both sides of the
Airfield.
airfield. So I'm sure that you can.
And we ordered that one, so?
No, we're waiting,
Well, he wants to make sure that the.
I want to make sure we're in compliance. There's a new advisory circular 150/5340-30J. And it strictly says that the windsock must be 16 feet off the ground, 36 inches in diameter, and 12 feet long. So I've got to go out there and measure. I think it is, and as long as it is, if it's not, then I'll order both of them at the same time. But I do believe it is.
36 inches in diameter.
Yeah, it has to be, as far as the mouth of it.
Correct.
The tail end.
Well,
Right.
Oh, but yeah, it's diameter.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Where's the second one going to be placed?
Down there by 1.6.
Okay, so it's in the 1/6.
Yes, sir.
Is it gonna be lit?
No, just the primary is the only one.
Oh, that's right, you only have that technically, literally at that one.
Correct. So it'll just be there for daytime VFR.
Okay, Vicky, on other airport projects, what else you got?
Okay, so we got.
Okay, so we got the rest of the parts for the Jet A tank. They came in, so I'm getting 2,000 gallons delivered on Tuesday of Jet A. Once that's delivered, I'll call Henderson Electric and Eagle Pump and Meter. Both of them will come out together. They'll do the final inspections, put everything together, we'll do a flow test. And then if everything's good, we're going live, we're gonna start selling. So hopefully within 3 weeks max.
Hey, Dickie,
Yes.
question. Since we haven't have a history of selling Jet A, is there any promotional activity we're doing to let folks know that?
Besides just putting it out there on all the flight websites, Facebooks, you know, and anything like that. Yes, so I've got 7 or 8 different websites that are all like for flight, that I'll be putting it all over, and it'll list immediately. And then our Facebook, we'll put it on the city Facebook, I'll put it on our website, also on the airport page as well. But that'll be about it. And then I'll call some people. I've got numbers for Airlight, I think is who he is, Joe there, and a couple of that I'll call and say, hey, it's open now, because they're waiting for that also to come land and get it. They called the other day again asking if we were up yet. Airlight.
He owns a couple of helicopters on Liberty and flies out this way a lot, usually the airline.
Is that a
Mavic? What's that?
Is that a Mavic?
Yes.
Yes, there's one in Liberty in Dayton. Yes, yeah.
For the month of February,
We sold 4,002 gallons of fuel, the shortest month, and we sold we barely broke 4,000, but we did. It was a good month.
And how much was it February a year ago?
700 gallons.
700 gallons. Slight increase.
So, And just to recap, for January of last year, or January of last year was approximately the same, 600 and something gallons, and we sold for about 3,966. 3,966 gallons January of this year. It was 600 and something January of the year.
So what's the profit? Well, we haven't made the profit yet because I had to pay $15,000 to buy the first 4,000 gallons, and we made like 2,000 profit on that. I spent 32,000 on the 8,000 gallons, and we've made, I think, 4,000 on it. So, but so far, or we will, for the month of this February. So by the time the end of March, we should be at the even point, and now I'll actually be buying fuel with profit money and then making profits on that. So I figure March or April is when we'll actually start seeing the profit.
Well, we're technically seeing profit.
Yes, it's just not.
Yes, it's just not catch up on paper.
You're just wanting to use the entire profit to purchase your fuel.
Yes.
But if you're buying fuel for $4 and selling for $4.50, you're making 56 gallons. But yeah, that's all.
Fence is complete.
Fence is completed along the west side, so that's good. We did have to put 2 gates in on one on each pipeline. I've also got the beverage cooler fixed, so it's in the airport. It's back on, up and running, everything's back in there.
Curiosity, what was it?
Circuit breaker.
Huh.
It just took me a little bit to get there, but I got it.
Also got
Just for future, for the budget planning, I'm working with Eagle Pump and Meter also to get a quote on getting another 50-foot line with an under the wing or NATO nozzle fuel hose for the jet tank. That way, the military helicopters or the bigger, larger, Lear jets that's been coming in, if they want to hook up under the wing or anything, we'll have that capability. I know during fire season, a lot of the helicopters stay up in Lufkin, but I'm looking to pull half of that down here and hopefully get out there in the grass area along the wood lines on the east side of the airport where they can station that, and then come over, taxi over, get fuel, and head out for anything on that.
Is that ground solid enough there?
So we're gonna find out. I'm gonna go out there and still look. And then maybe, put a fuel pad out there, or something. But that's still a ways off. At least getting it in the budget where I can at least have them start, prepping it.
What's our capacity of today?
6,500 gallons, so you imagine that with that tank, probably 300 to 500 gallons is unusable or, or below the thing. So probably 6,000, which the only thing I'll ever be able to order is a split load, which is 4,000. But once that goes down, now if Liberty orders a split load, I can take their other half and, keep it filled up that way as well. So
Okay, once people start finding out and using it, because the Jet A's service is probably going to be significant as far as not going to sell 10 gallons, you'll be selling
200, 400 in a pop.
Are we still making the same profit on these?
We will. We have to look at getting another tank in the future if it is successful.
Or a
And
tank
that's
or
something that we may have to look into at some point.
a truck and start providing full service. Also, I went to Dallas for a conference and meeting with the FAA Compliance Division. We got to speak on a lot of stuff. The one thing that I'll talk about here, just to give everybody a heads up and y'all can spread the word, but in July, the FAA compliance team will be here to do a full-blown inspection of our airport. They're going to look at all leases, financials, safety, grant assurances, grants from the last 20 years, the airport layout plan, all deeds, easements, exhibit A's. They're going to talk to the fire department. They're going to drive around the runway, ramp and airfields, check out our signs and panels, our paid services, and they are going to go inside and inspect every hangar. They did say that specifically. So they want to make sure that we are in compliance with the advisory circular or the FAA's policy on aeronautical use of hangars that came out in 2017. So they said that it was a big topic that they talked about 2024, and they're still having a lot of problems with nobody complying. So, and I know most of us are all in compliance, you know,
In their idea.
in their idea, I
Their
mean,
idea.
listen, their idea of compliance is
The non-impedance.
the non-impedance
of
of the
the
plane.
hangar.
The hangar,
That door.
when you open that door, the plane must be able to come in and out unimpeded. You shouldn't have to move a car, you shouldn't have to move an RV, you shouldn't have to move anything. Your golf cart can be parked in front of it because you're using it to pull it in and out.
But,
But, you know, you shouldn't have a house load of furniture in there blocking the airplane or anything.
So in short, if there's anything in your hangar you don't want the FAA to see, you might want to get it out there.
So hopefully I'll have some pinned down dates. I've got to speak with Gary up there again next week, and I'm hoping they can give me an exact date, but they did say July.
Are you gonna notify everybody that's got a hand?
well,
Well, we're gonna have to because currently we don't have keys for all the hangars, and we gotta get keys for all the hangars.
We got keys on, so we get in.
Yeah. Because that's, you know, it's non-compliance if we don't, it's not that they will lose our funding, but we'll get a non-compliance status until then. But they're really nice guys, they're really understanding, they enjoy meeting with them.
Any questions on any of that so far? Where we at on we finished the permit review for ag tractors yet?
yes. So
Yes,
the only reason
so
why we-
the only reason why I can't put it into submission is, or in use just yet, because of the fees. The fees are going on the master fee schedule, which is what, you know, the city moved to for all their fees.
So we almost have it.
So we've almost got that,
Have we agreed on the fees yet?
No.
no.
Well,
So, well,
put them in there
I put them in there as 180 for 100,000 below,
for no,
and, or no,
80 for 100,000.
80 for 100,000 and below, and then 180 above 100,000.
Basically, it's just
So
double.
basically, it just doubled almost his price. And then, when we called all the other airports, nobody's charging a fee, but they want to charge a fee, but they don't know what to charge, and they're asking us so they can do that. So pretty much on all of that, we're just gonna set the standard.
But I'll have that.
But I'll have that, once we can get that sheet mechanism worked out, then that'll come for approval, and then the whole master fee sheet will go to council for approval and implementation.
So we still need to come up with a price on the fee prior to that. And so when do we need to come up with the firm price on the fee? By what city company?
I really depends on when I can get everything through the FAA for the master fee schedule.
Okay, so but we have to have the price of that permit fee prior to that.
Correct.
So I guess my point is that we need to figure out that price.
It'll all come to the airport board as one.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So we don't have to, we don't worry about that right now.
No.
So Dickie, I may be getting into the weeds a little much here,
Yes.
so I can stop if that's necessary. But, I know the fees and the permitting, which I think is a great way to begin the process of policing the operation. But is there going to be anyone from the city providing oversight that compliance to permit restrictions are in fact being done by the operator?
That was.
So that was in the permit prior also, it just, nobody enforced it. So now that I'm in there, I can enforce it, because I'm there every day. And I'm there every day monitoring radios and everything, Unicom as well. Their permit, I'll be able to speak to them, but before they were just, told to go check in. But,
Yeah, because I think, knowing that there's someone there, seeing that they're operating in compliance with the airport flows and all of that,
yes,
if there's no one there watching it to challenge them on that, then we'll just be right back to where we were. So I think it's important. That would be my recommendation, is that we have someone there to provide that oversight.
yes,
So we have somebody that does it.
7 days a week now.
And it's built in.
And it's built into the permit for that, exactly like you said.
Well, we might want to just kind of give faith, because they work a lot on weekends also, so we might want to give faith and give a little quick education.
Well, that's what I was doing. Would they
Front
know,
days, directional,
right, would they know something was not in compliance or not?
not right now.
Yeah.
can't, no, now.
So prior to that, we still need to do that with Public Works too.
you're right.
But sooner than later, we probably do need to get, and I know everybody on this board's offered, to help, but probably Maria and, at least Maria and Faye, to get them familiar with traffic direction, windsock direction, just and all that stuff that we're wanting the ag tractors to abide by.
And actually, Faith's gotten really good at pattern
Yes,
recognition.
and she's flying some out
Taking it
there.
out.
She got her first lesson with Tom Street a week or two ago. Okay, anything else on the inspection project? Looking at the last minutes, I think that kind of covers everything. Nothing on 5, so we're into the 6, city's aviation ordinance, Article 2, on the airport board. Who is doing that for us?
I mean, all I have planned, all I can do is just read it and kind of explain if you got questions on
Well,
it.
yep, we should have copies of that.
Everybody, yeah, I think I emailed it to everyone as well.
Yeah.
So,
If not, you have it from the last meeting.
so,
So our ordinances.
So our ordinances, they're all online also on our website, but chapter 22 is the city's aviation ordinance. Today we're not going to cover the whole ordinance, we're just going to go over Article 2. And then at the next board, if y'all want, we can go over Article 3, which is more in depth in the weeds and the rules that actually govern the airport. So Article 2, Airport Board created appointment of members, filling of vacancies. So there is created an airport board consisting of 8 members. 1 member shall be the airport manager, and 1 member shall be a council. And so that's what we have here. We have 8 members, plus myself and plus Mr. Lauer, council member. The citizen members of the board shall be appointed for a term of 2 years by the mayor with the approval of the council. And so everybody knows that, when they were appointed, I'm not sure when the expirations are on most of them, but I think December, I think at least half will get reappointed or whatever, the new members.
I believe this one's 2 years.
Yeah, so December ends, some. The citizen members of the board shall serve at the will of the council. If for any reason a vacancy is created in the board, the mayor shall appoint a new member with the approval of the council. The next section, 2232, quorum constituted. 4 members of the airport board shall constitute a quorum. So, in order to have a meeting that has anything come out of it, we have to have a quorum that can vote. So if we only had 3 members show up, we can still discuss stuff, but it wouldn't be anything that could be have action taken on. 2233, next section, purpose and duties. The purpose of the airport board is to advise the council of the problems relating to the city airport and to recommend to the council such plans and programs as will best promote the airport for the city. And so that's just, I think we've done already, advising council or talking here and then recommending stuff up for council for them to either approve or to put in place. 2334, adoption of bylaws, rules, and regulations. The airport board shall adopt such bylaws, rules, and regulations as it may be proper. And right now, that's the end of Article 2. There's never been any kind of bylaws or anything that the airport board's met or agreed upon or implemented.
So I just want to have a process check.
Yes, sir.
So, for example, one of the things that we've been talking about at the airport for a while now is the establishment of an instrument of coach from the south for runway 34. And if we wanted to begin the activity for that, that was our recommendation. And we had people on the board, and I'll just kind of name you and myself and Dustin, who have FAA background. We would rely on Scott and you, Vicki, as the initiators of us. We wouldn't just take it on ourselves to start the process. That would be a recommendation we would make. You guys would decide what steps you want to take to accomplish that. And if you wanted to recruit us to assist, you would initiate that with us. But outside of you actually approaching us, it would not be something within the realm of the board for us to initiate that action, correct?
No, actually it would. We would come up with we can come up with an idea to advise the city, hey, this is what the airport wants, we want to approach you in 3-4, or we want to lift, like I think it's already been done tonight on 1-6, and bring that as one of the members, you can put that on the agenda, and then that will be discussed, and then we would have to collectively figure out if we want to go that direction, and obviously we would, with the 3-4 approach, then from there, collectively figure out what's the best way to get it done. Obviously, utilize what we have access to.
Well, no, I'm using that only as an example, right? So, the process. So, in other words, I guess really what I'm driving at is, as individual members of the board, we don't initiate our own actions. We do so we advise and recommend, and then when the city says, yeah, we want to do that, you would initiate the process to begin.
Yeah, but as a board member, you can make a recommendation, we can discuss something, but you as a individual board member can't do any action. As the board, you can make a recommendation.
Right.
Now, depending on, if it requires council approval, it could be just an internal policy thing that could be just done at this level and then Vicki oversees. If it requires a decision or a direction from council, then it would have to go from here as a recommendation to council. And then of course, then you also have to deal with the TxDOT and FAA. If they're involved in any way, then it could be a recommendation from the board, discussion with the staff, and then working with the FAA and TxDOT to get all the approvals in place. And then it may still need to have council approval. Dealing with those, it looks like it's going to have council approval as well.
So I guess for me, I would be looking to you and Vicki for that kind of guidance or
Correct.
making sure those processes are all being supplied within the city and rather than us just blindly initiating those actions on our own. So that was how I understood it to work. That's the reason I wanted to kind of go through this to make sure my understanding was accurate.
So the board members can definitely bring, for whatever it is, I'll make an example right now. Like a 3-4 approach, we probably never do a city council. But just as you come up with an idea that you think is going to be good for you, then we can put it on the agenda. Actually, Vicki was listening, but we can get it on the agenda and, or we can at least bring it up to the board as whatever the idea is. And then, yes, from there, like the observation area. The city came up with that originally, but we approved it on our end, then it's kind of taken away from us. After we approved that on our end, then it goes to the city, now it's on them. They need to do their part of it and get it done. If they need help, they can come to us and ask us for that. But I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Well, as an observation deck is a really good example of how that's going to be a continual project. So the city kind of had the idea, came to the board, y'all looked at different locations, different sites, came up with recommendations, took it to council as a recommendation, council approved the location, and now they brought it back for us to kind of move forward. And so now it's really EDC and the airport board working together because the EDC now is going to maybe help contribute and pay for some of this. But then at the same time, it's not necessarily EDC's job to determine the size, the location, all that. That's more of this board that says this is what we're going to want, and then take it to the EDC and say, all right, this is what we want to fund. Now, once you agree that this is what we want, the EDC says we're gonna pay for this portion of it, then it still has to go back to council, for the council to actually appropriate and approve the money or the funds from the EDC to actually be spent on an observation. But that's where the coordination is gonna come in. We're gonna take staff, this board, the EDC board, and council all working unified together to make that happen. And as we've learned recently, it's also going to involve, you know, the FAA and TxDOT, because they're going to have to officially give approval of whatever design, whatever pavilion we want, whatever we want in that location, and the location of it. They have to actually give official approval before we can move forward. So there's a whole lot of stuff.
And that situation is currently, basically it's at the EDC now. And waiting on size and waiting on some numbers to come in to where we can see what EDC can do on it. But I think that kind of.
You got it, answers my question.
But I do want everybody to understand that if we have ideas on this board, or let's just say, Larry, goes to you and says, hey, what do you think about A, B, and C? And probably you should put that on the agenda, and say, hey, this is brought up, let's look at this. And let's talk about it. I'd like to see that be, open discussions where we, if we have ideas, don't hesitate to bring them, let's put them on the agenda and let's talk about it. For sure, right away. Unless it's coming from John. Just joking. Okay, anything else on?
That's all I've got on what we'll do.
So I think what Dickie's plan is to go through articles as we were going forward.
Yes.
And just addressing a section at a time.
Is that what y'all would like? I mean, keep moving forward on the ordinance? Okay, so I'll add Article 3.
I know we're talking about the obvious, but we haven't talked about it at all, so I just wanted to make sure my understanding of it is just making the wrong assumptions, right? So,
Oh, no.
There's actually quite a bit who don't realize that, that there is an aviation ordinance, in the city. And so it'll be great to review.
But again, we are an advisory board.
right. Okay, good.
Everybody good?
One of the questions that came up earlier, before the meeting was, does Zigbee vote or not vote? And it's really, on this ordinance, this may be where we want to change it, it really doesn't specify. It says that the airport manager and a council member are part of the board, but it doesn't say who is a voting member, who's not a voting member. And then it goes back and says the citizen members, which are the non-council and the non-director positions, and they got 2-year terms. But it isn't, and it's assumed that obviously the citizen members obviously vote. The way this goes, it's probably assumed that the airport manager and the council member vote as well. But really, because a lot of like the Parks Board, we just went through this and walked through them through the exact same thing. It specifies that the citizen members are the voting members, the council members are liaison, and the staff of the city that are on that board are liaison members only, and only the citizens that are appointed by council are the actual voting members. The rest of them are all liaison. This one does not specify that, so that could be something. And as we're going through this is something that you can make a note, and then as we get done, we go through this whole thing, we can then go, okay, let's modify this. If we want to change this, we could, and then we can take those changes to the council as a recommendation. We would like to specify this and add this to the, for example, on a 2-year term, this 2-year term, there's a thing about staggers. That's one of the things that the Parks and Rec did, is they decided to go, we're going to go and we're going to stagger. They did 3-year terms instead of just 2-year, but then they staggered them so that you don't have this odd situation where every single board member comes off at the same time, because you're all appointed at the same time. And every 2 years, you got a whole brand new board, eventually could have a whole brand new board, so they want to stagger it. So that's something else that y'all can, as we're going through these things, we need to be looking at those opportunities and just discuss those if there's something we want to do. So like right now, we just went through this first section. Would that be something y'all may want to consider and talk about? And do we want to have some staggered terms? We want to maybe do that. Because all we got to do is, again, go to the council and make that recommendation, and the council can make that approval or therefore. So.
And who votes to do that.
Right. That all can be clarified, and if that's something we want to do as we're going through these, keep that in mind. I don't know if we want to do that today. Maybe you want to consider that. Maybe next month we talk about that again. And then maybe as we go section by section, just keep that in mind. If there's something that we need to maybe clarify or tweak or approve, then let's do that so that we can then take them to council. I would say I would wait to take a recommendation to council all at one time. So get the whole ordinance, we'll make that one modification, then take it to council as one modification. Not every single month take a different ordinance to change, to amend that ordinance section by section.
We may not want any.
I'm going to bring that up, John. If Nikki and myself did not get to vote, I get to vote at least one more time anyway. You really need to know where I stand on whatever matter comes, because let's say y'all all agree that we're going to put the building in a certain location, and I disagree. Now I'm going to take that to council, and I'm going to try to persuade him not to approve it. That would be wrong. And I think y'all need to know exactly where I stand. And Nikki also.
Oh, 100%. I
If
think
we're not all 100% on board, then I'm shooting everybody else in the foot.
And his other job is that he actually, every council meeting, the mayor asks all the council members for updates. And that's one of his jobs. I think Julius is on Parks and Rec. Julius Buckley is council member. He gives the updates on that. Eddie Lowry, he either does it himself or asks me to do it, but he gives the updates on what we're doing. And so on down the line. And I agree with that 100%. We're gonna want to know exactly where our airport director stands on anything. And also, obviously, our city council members on board. If we get into a position, in my opinion, where we don't know if the airport director, don't know where he's standing on situations, and we don't have a communication open with it, then I'm afraid we're going to go backwards. We've got to be able to communicate, and that's between airport director and the city council member on our staff, on our board, the members at the airport. We've got to have communication. But if we do want to address that, actually lay that out, who votes and who doesn't vote, we can have that.
Yeah, since we're still on this article, we haven't moved forward yet. And I've always considered myself, just by virtue of position, that I'm a non-voting member. Just by that. And then plus that makes 7, which means that there's never a tie. If there's 8, if I was, then it's always a tie. There's no way to break it. So since we just finished going over Article 2, like Scott said, is there anything that y'all see just on this section right here? Because what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take notes on this. I'll keep it compiled, and then as we go through Article 3, everything else, I'll compile all my notes, and then at the very end, I'll go through it in one final meeting. Hey, here's all the changes that we recommended. If we missed anything, is there any last things that we want to add, and then submit it to council.
I really have one question for Scott and for you, or maybe more for Ed, actually. Does the city council want all boards to be consistent on how they do their voting? In other words, if we were to decide as a group, we have no problem with the end user being voting along with everyone else. If our board has decided to do that differently, does that even matter to the council, or do they want consistency?
Sounds like a good council question.
throw Eddie underneath
As
that
a
bus.
council member, I think I should be a voting member for the simple reason you need to know where I stand. Because now I'm going to take what knowledge I have and what discussion we had to the city council people and persuade them, or do my best to persuade them that this is a good thing or it's a bad thing. As far as Dick is concerned, so here I think he should not be a voting member. Because he gets a paycheck from the city, he's just doing what he's directed to do.
I would agree on both.
So, standing in that position, personally, I want to know exactly where he stands as long as everybody else on the board. Because it's very, very hard to get a unanimous decision. Usually there's one person that has a different view of things and maybe affects them different than it affects the rest of us. So it's real hard, but yes, I should vote if you should vote.
I like what you said, Eddie, and for a lot of reasons, but I like having an odd number so that you don't have ties.
Yes.
That's so if Vicky was a liaison and as a paid employee of the city, doesn't have voting rights, and that gives it 7, and I think that covers the quorum, and covers everything.
It does, but
I'm just saying, that makes sense.
Yes, but I don't want to leave him out.
No, I agree.
I'll give input or recommendations, but I just won't vote on it. That'll be all.
Well, and on every board, and I sit on 3 boards in the city. On every board, I mean, like zoning board adjustments, they handle variances. The current person dealing with that is Danielle. And I always ask, what's the city's recommendation, or what's their view? And that needs to be the same thing on this board, I believe, is you need to know his recommendation and his viewpoint on anything we do. The one thing we don't want is to be polar opposite of Dicky and not discuss it, because then things are going south. I mean, it's just going to go south. So I think there are some of the boards in the city of Cleveland are ran a little differently than that. Alice and I we got a clarification on the EDC president voting at the last EDC. And our lawyer was present, and we went to her to get ready to know for sure, because I'm the president on the EDC board, if I had to vote or don't. Because we weren't sure, and other people on board wasn't sure. So we got the attorneys. On certain boards, the president doesn't have a vote unless it's taken aside. I think that would be a decent recommendation, and it's not written out in here. And I think that's a good start, is for us to have a recommendation on what to put in here, on who can vote, who can't vote. I don't know what y'all's opinion is as far as the airport director, whoever that airport director is, doesn't matter if it's Vicky or whoever it is. I think that should get spelled out in here, to where, here we go, the questions that Greg is having are really stuff that he shouldn't have to have, if it was written down in this ordinance to begin with. Here's what you're talking. If you don't mind, we'll have a little closer. And the reason I'm on 3 boards, and this is all televised also. So the minute this gets out here, I watch a lot of these meetings from the city. And when you're watching these meetings from the city, and all you can do is hear a little bit of this, and it's very aggravating when you're watching the meeting on YouTube, trust me. And yes. And then also when you're having to do the minutes, because the people who do the minutes here specifically, the way they usually do these is they go back and they watch these minutes, and that's how they can make minutes. So if you can't hear them, it's very, I promise you, it's very aggravating. Because some of these meetings in the city, you'll watch and go, man, I wish you knew what they said. Oh, I wish I knew what they said. And then the other thing, just to let y'all know for the future, you don't know, this button controls on and off. If you're saying something you don't want heard, you might want to turn it off. That controls it. So anyways, I meant to bring that up, actually, when you was put on the board. I forgot. Go ahead, sorry.
So I agree with
what we discussed as far as we need to have Vicky's input on everything that the airport is involved with, obviously. But it also makes sense to have the 7 voting members, and it needs to be spelled out in minutes because it's not. And that's just a simple. I was thinking, as far as the council, I mean, almost the reason that Vicky doesn't vote is almost the reason why the council should vote. But you made a very good point. That you need to know your opinion.
Yeah.
What because you have the influence on the council. So, but then that pushes back to 6. So, I'm wondering if you didn't have voting rights and Vicky did, how did that make sense?
Well, I think, in my opinion anyways, kind of what Mr. Lowry had said, that the conflict is you have a paid employee. Not that this, I'm saying this would happen here, but you have a paid employee that the city can control his vote. And I think that's kind of where I think Mr. Lowry is coming. I don't think that would actually happen, but you never know.
John, I mean, just on that one as well, is as a city manager and over staff and direction, I mean, the council sets our policy, they set our direction. We administer those policies and those directions. We're not supposed to, as staff, set those policies. And so it's best for our staff not to be. Now, our staff should be totally open, totally honest. They should be the resource. They should be the go-to person. They can provide you all the information and details, but we should not be voting on necessarily direction or policy or even recommendation that goes to council for policy. There's that separation between that's your governance. Council sets the policy and direction, they set the rules, and then we administer those. So my recommendation would be to remove Vicky. Now, the council, it can go either way. If you do move, if you don't want the council member to vote, he should still be giving his opinion, and I know Eddie, he's going to give his opinion. But at the same thing, you could go, if you go that direction, you don't have to keep it. It could be that there's 7 members that are citizen members. This is your opportunity to write it, plus 2 liaison, a council member and a staff member. Or it could be that you say there's 9, one being a non-voting staff member and one being a non-voting council member, then we get 7. So again, when you're looking at this, just because it says 8 board members, doesn't mean you have to stick with the 8 board members. It could be that you make it 9, and then the council nor Vicky, the councilman or the staff member votes. But if you want the council member to vote, then I would, when we need to look at that number, we definitely want it to be, the voting members need to be on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really up to you guys.
I know that in these, we only have a couple of boards that don't, I think actually there's only one that doesn't go to city council. But, so anything that we are doing recommends has to go to city council to get approved. So, and when you have a city council member on the board, you have to know, like Eddie said, you have to know the direction they're going to go. Eddie, just for transparency, Eddie's only going to be here for 2 more months.
Right.
He is not rerunning and can't rerun. And then we will get a new city council member on this board in 2 more months. So, as far as voting or non-voting, I don't know if it really matters that much as far as the city council member, in my opinion. Because even if they vote against it, you're going to want to know if they do, whatever it is. And even if they do, and they're not, and that vote goes against what other ways to go, it still has to go to city council for approval. But you would think that wouldn't happen. You'd hope that would happen. You would think that and hope that city council members can be on the same page as the board.
Could we, table this topic for our next meeting, and that way we can give Dustin and Ms. Leo a chance to be present and perhaps get a perspective first all.
This is no, yeah, we're in no hurry to do this. And we don't even have to have a motion to table because we don't make a motion. No, yeah, it was just a discussion. So we, but for the next month, we want to think about these things and anything else in this, section 2 that we were just talking about. Because this is like Scott said, this is the chance that we could rewrite this to go forward to the airport board and have a lot more in there than this vague terminology.
You said that one of the other boards has a citizen member as a voting member, correct?
Correct.
And that's us 5, correct?
Correct.
That consistency.
Six.
Because Leo.
Leo.
Oh, okay.
So what we would have to do, if you don't want, just let me clarify real quick. If this board chose to not, let's just take the other picture. If we chose not to have our city council member, there's always going to be a city council member on this board. So if we chose for him not to be a voting member, then we need to increase one member. We need to add a member. We need to get somebody else on board. To where we can still keep that on.
It seems from a consistency standpoint, it would make sense to have citizen, we're board members, the city council and the airport director. I mean, the city's going to do what the city's going to do. And I would think that you would want us as an advisory board to make the votes. And then you guys are going to do what you have to do.
Well, hopefully
You're just taking
they're
our
going to be,
input, right?
and hopefully, that's kind of the purpose of these boards. Typically, it's very rare, at least all the times I've seen different boards in situations, specifically in this municipality, but other ones also, that they go against, totally go against what the board recommends. I think that's the purpose of the board. The city council is usually going to try to go with what that recommendation is from the people that are relying on to make whatever that recommendation is.
And that's what would make sense to me, to have the airport director and the council person not put that vote, but have
And then add another.
and that way you have consistency with the other board.
Well, and I use the Parks and Rec just as a discussion point. We just went through the exact same thing going through. It's a new board that was just created this year. So we went through that with them. We do have other boards like EDC that we have council members that sit on that board and they are voting members of that board. So
It can go either way.
it can go either way. In different cities a different way, but even within our own city, we've got the council seat is different. Now,
All the boards.
on all the boards, the city staff are non-voting. It's more of a liaison. But
On every board, if I'm not mistaken, thinking about it, on every board that has a city council member on it, they're voting members.
not part of the board.
Yeah, but that's the one that's not. Everything else,
Yeah, I look at the situation uniquely in the sense that it's really up to you guys as the citizens as to which way you want to go. Because this position is going to be changing probably more often than yours. But on the other side of it, you have an opportunity here to convince this individual sitting here to go back and say, hey, this is a great idea, and I'm talking to the council people and trying to win this one and trying to win this one. But on the other side, there are people that have no interest in the airport. And I'm talking about council people. And when they get here, they will not know anything about, I've been on the airport board, I have my pilot license when I was in high school, I understand some of the lingo, it's a good thing for me. But for the next person, they may not have any idea, or any interest. Try to bring them up.
And we've had council members Councilman Alvarez's point, that we've had council members that are appointed to the board, they're supposed to be their liaison to the board, that don't show up to the board meeting.
Or that show up to the board meetings and they're never a liaison back to city council.
That's that role for the council, that's why you have a council member on the board, is so that they're able to communicate the board's interests back to the council, and provide that information.
On this board, you have an exception to everything, every board is there. That is John, myself, and you. We are all 100% pro airport. And we want to push whatever we can to get all of it as much as we can. And get it from council, from EDC, from TxDOT, from FAA. We want everything we can get. And so if I'm not available, if I've got a sore throat, John can take over, and if John's not here, then Dick is going to take over, because we don't have that same attitude for this board. But when I leave in 2 months, it may be a hold, you may not have that.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Well, but that is.
You want to have one on the board on the same.
But just so we're clear, that is a guarantee. We will not have him. It's not a maybe. He is going to be replaced by.
And that's up to the council as to who they want to put on.
Is a councilman a paid position?
Well, you could say that at $25 a month, that sure is.
Well, I mean, I was viewing that you mentioned that because Vic is a city employee.
Yeah.
And I don't know the city business, but that's all right. But if the city councilman is a paid person, then that logically extends.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, it was given to us because of the fuel prices many years ago.
That's unfortunate.
I'd rather give it back right now, personally.
Yeah, he's already checked out.
But Eddie is elected, Dick is not.
Correct.
Yes.
Even though he may be compensated, he's an elected official.
Right.
Vicky was appointed.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I just have to be pretty good. Maybe he could get elected. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say that.
Can we strike that from the record? Yeah, we're live on TV, folks.
But I do wholeheartedly agree that we need to spell out
Absolutely.
the voting members and to have an odd number of vote.
So on next month's agenda, I'll keep Article 2 on there, and then the next one underneath it'll be Article 3. You know, to start discussing, we can wrap this one up and start. We don't have to finish Article 3 because it is long. You know, we can do, 3 or 4 sections and, over a period of 4 months, 5 months to get it completed all.
Again, just for the record, God bless Mrs. Lowry.
Thank you, brother.
Well, and just on the order that you've got, just for y'all's recognition, because I think it is good that we're going through and looking at the ordinance and then maybe possibly updating it. When you look at your ordinances that you have before you, on the bottom of each section, there's usually in parentheses, they'll say a code and then a year, and then some other numbers. And so that code followed a year, that is the year that the last update was. So those are each of the ordinance numbers and the year that it was done. So the last time Section 2231 was updated was 2008. And then before that was 2004, and before that was 1998. So it's been quite a while, so it's good to go through and update them like we're doing just to make sure and clarify. But as you're going through it, just for good information, you can kind of look and see when were those last updates done.
Yeah, those are 2233 was 1969 and 1998. 32. I agree with Greg. Let's table this, and that way y'all can at least, we can all give this some thought. I do think that on the next meeting we should see if we can make a decision on moving forward. Everybody good with that? You good with that?
Yes.
Anything else in regards to this Article 2? The other thing to look at is, I mean, we can't change C from 2231, that's not what we want. B, and that was the other thing that the city manager brought up was B, so we might want to look at it to see if we want to stagger terms. Currently, Greg and obviously Mr. Bartlett, because Mr. Bartlett's been on this board since 1985, and he was the president since 1990 until he made me no. Yes, shifted jobs. And that doesn't mean that they get replaced necessarily. So in other words, those 2-year terms, 2 years may come up and he may never come off. Well, there's prime example. He's been on there since 1985. But each one of those is something that we might want to look at and go over, change. Stagger it, or should evaluate on each one of those.
I think right now,
Because I think right now, all members are due in December except for Hugh, because Hugh just got put on with this last vote. Okay, and then, like he said, it doesn't mean everybody's gone, it's just in November, everybody fills out another application, so everybody can serve, and it goes to council for reappointment.
Any other questions on the audit?
Yes, sir, I'm good.
We got a presentation by Mr. Larry on, I believe that's his name, is that right? On EAA chapter 19, or 1698 presentation. Larry, if you don't mind, give us your first name, last name, and address.
Larry Elliott, 15 Kingwood Villas Court, Kingwood, 77339.
Thank you, sir. And this is a presentation, go ahead.
Okay, I was asked to come in and talk to you, all of you folks, about what is the EAA. And I'll also tell you that I'm a retired airline pilot, and I've been an EAA member for about 20 years. So what is the EAA? It stands for Experimental Aircraft Association. It was, its purpose is to promote general aviation. And it was begun in 1953, so it's been around like 71 years. Excuse me. There are now over 1,700 chapters worldwide in over 20 countries, and there are over 200,000 members of the EAA. So it's not a small organization. What does experimental mean? If an airplane is built in a factory that's certified by the FAA, it is a certified airplane. If it's not built in a factory, it's called an experimental airplane, also known as an amateur-built airplane. There are a lot of them. There's 33,000 amateur-built airplanes registered with the FAA. And it's important to note that experimental airplanes are built to the same standard as certified airplanes. When you finish building one, and I know because I spent many years building one myself, when you finish construction, it has to be inspected by an FAA examiner, and once he approves it, he can deny it and say you've got to do some more things, you've got to correct some things before you can fly it. But once you're approved, you've got to fly it for 40 hours by yourself before, as a flight tester, before you can allow anybody else to fly with you. So that's what experimental airplanes are all about. I've got a short video about EAA. It's got a little more information in it that I want to show you. But there's a few things here that you might wonder about. One is Oshkosh.
I've loved aviation for as long as I can remember. I stop and look up every time I hear a plane passing overhead. Aviation is part of who I am. I love the adventure, the skill, the knowledge, and the camaraderie of sharing my experiences with others who feel the same way. It's more than a hobby. It's my passion and lifestyle. And that's why I've made EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, my aviation home. While my love of flying is personal, it's also universal. More than 200,000 EAA enthusiasts from around the world share the spirit of aviation. It's the beating heart of who we are. The exclusive resources EAA provides its members fuels my hunger for aviation, because EAA offers benefits that matter to me. Especially at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, the world's greatest aviation celebration. Each summer, I plan my trip to Wisconsin, the home of EAA and its annual fly-in and convention. Here, I meet old friends, make new ones, learn new skills, see amazing aircraft and unique displays you can't find anywhere else. I watch jaw-dropping air shows and immerse myself in the entire experience. It's truly aviation's family reunion. Throughout the rest of the year, I stay connected and enjoy the activities of my local EAA chapter. I participate in hands-on activities and share the spirit of aviation by introducing people to flight through the Young Eagles program and other EAA flight experiences. I also can't wait for each monthly issue of EAA Sport Aviation magazine to arrive. It's the best source for learning about what's happening in the world of recreational aviation. EAA helps me understand where aviation has come from and where it's headed. That's because EAA is both the steward of aviation's heritage and supports the innovation paving the way for generations to come. EAA founder Paul Poborezny was fond of saying, "The airplanes bring us together, but it's the people that keep us coming back." I couldn't agree more. If you build, if you fly, if you dream, there's a place for you. I am EAA. We are EAA. Welcome home.
Okay, so that gave you a little oversight of what the EAA is all about. So to elaborate on some of those things, we have fly-ins locally, and the AirVenture that they mentioned is the annual week-long event that takes place in Oshkosh. In the summertime, they have over 10,000 airplanes that show up that week, and over 500,000 visitors, so it's quite the air show. We also do locally have fly-ins, which I'll talk about again in a minute, but at the fly-ins, we try to do discovery flights, which are allowing kids to fly for free, and that's that program is called Young Eagles. We also more recently had a Eagles program, which allows adults to fly for free. Builder assistance. When somebody like myself started building an airplane, I didn't know anything about it. So I went to EAA and I got a lot of assistance in terms of seminars and videos, and have what they call technical advisors. Somebody's already built one, you can call and they actually can come out and look at your progress and see how you're doing and make recommendations. And another big aspect of EAA is the government advocacy. So they have lobbyists. They go to Washington and they encourage legislation that can help general aviation. A good example of that recently is we changed the medical requirements for pilots to make them much more lenient for general aviation pilots. So that's the type of thing that EAA does to encourage general aviation. We are talking about flying locally here at the Cleveland Airport. And I don't know how much discussion we want to get into this. We're just in the very early stages of it. But that won't necessarily, not necessarily be an EAA event. The EAA is for insurance purposes. They can be involved in a project which is strictly EAA, but they do not get involved with other agencies or other organizations, such as the City of Cleveland in such an event. So right now, we're a new chapter. We've been in business for 2 months. We don't have any money, and we don't have 25 members. Conroe EAA chapter 302 has been in business around for 30-some years. They have 175 members there, and they have lots of money to do lots of events. But we don't have any money to speak of, but we've still been talking about doing a fly-in, and we've been told previously by Vicki and Scott about the city wants to promote the airport. So we've been talking to the city as well, or we talked to, we had a meeting yesterday, a planning meeting, we talked to Vicki yesterday about that. We're in the early stages of it, we don't know how it's going to all develop, but just for your information, that's what we're doing.
Anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions about that, or have any discussion about this? I don't know how far you want to get into it.
I got a question on the fly-in. Exactly what's going to happen if we put one in Cleveland? Is there a schedule of events or something?
Will be.
Well, there will be, there's not yet, because we're in the early stages, but typically, yes, you would have a schedule, you would have people fly in their own airplanes from all over the area, from distances, you know, far and wide, people would fly in. You could have dozens and dozens of airplanes flying to the airport.
And you don't know how many would actually?
We would just, no, we never know in advance. It's just, we send out flyers, or now with social media, we can send out information that way to advise everybody that there's a flyer. They're fairly common. In fact, when our first planning meeting last week, we looked at the schedule of flying events in the area. We tried to pick a weekend, typically done on Saturday. We tried to pick a weekend where we didn't have a lot of competition, because flying are very common, very frequent, and we didn't want to have one here while we were having one over at Conroe, for example. So we came up with May 4th. In fact, Vicki just told me before the meeting that that's a voting date. So the tentative date, we're probably going to have to slip that anyway, you know, and compete with the voting.
Another question I have for you, what kind of dollar are we looking at spending?
We don't.
Don't tell me you don't know.
No. Well, we've got a list of things that we tentatively yeah, we talked about it last night. He's got a long list, 2 pages that he came up with. A lot of things, and we don't really know. One of the things we talked about earlier today is making some phone calls this week, going through that list, making some phone calls, try to get an idea of what all those things will cost, and then come back to you guys or somebody in the city to see whether or not funds are available. So I don't know that number right now, but I hope to have it by next week.
Money's not a problem. I mean, Scott's got money. And John's on the EDC, and now Vicky's got money flowing in from gas. I mean, we just got, we're loaded.
We're not in the profit stage yet.
So, I'm sure it's expensive, but.
Well, a lot of the, it's not like people are going to come in and expecting the visitors, I used to say, not they come in. There's no admission charge to plan.
Right.
And the flying, if anybody wants to do a discovery flight, typically the pilot funds that, he pays for the gas. Sometimes there are things like what we're talking about is donations. Donations for various things, maybe get some booths that people could, advertise, and maybe have a booth for EA, so people would know what the EA is. So again, we're still in the planning purposes. We don't have a lot of answers, and my purpose was just to kind of introduce you to what's going on and introduce you to the EA.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've talked about, since we even considered bringing it in-house, was doing fly-in. And one thing we talked about doing something small and building up. We talked about doing pancake breakfast and hot dogs or hamburger cook-offs and doing different stuff, trying to build it up and do an event. And one of the things that I talked to Vicki about, and we talked to Ashley. Ashley does a lot of event coordination for special events for the city, and to be able to work with her, maybe getting her involved in the committee and those meetings as well, because she does have all those vendor contacts. She's got, depending on what you're looking at doing, if you want to have rides out there, she's got vendors that do rides and different games, different activities that we use for special events. If you want to have a food truck out there, we got the food trucks. If you want to have, like the Lions Club do, they mentioned maybe doing the volunteering to do a pancake breakfast. you know, but she's got a lot of those organizations. If you want to do some kind of a craft show or something where people will fly in, maybe around Christmas time or something, we've got a hometown Christmas, but maybe we have something just at the airport where people can fly in and do something. I don't know, but I mean, maybe getting her involved as well to kind of help, knowing what kind of contacts and stuff that we have here, you know, and somebody that runs special events all the time, on the city standpoint, that may be beneficial. So I think Vicky's talked to her, I've talked to her. She's willing to help out as well. So we're definitely supporting. We definitely want to do these. There are, you know, it's the fly-in. I know y'all done probably do plenty of them in the past, but the city hasn't. So it's something new and trying to work through all those details and trying to figure out how we can make that work with the new, with our leadership and direction. But we definitely want to work with the people at the airport. We definitely want to work with the different groups to make sure that we have these fly-ins. We talked about even previously, making sure we do something like once a month, having some kind of a fly-in, and then maybe doing twice a year a bigger event. So, Connie, you're showing the video, obviously not that big, but a bigger event. Well, we do those maybe twice a year, and then maybe every month. We plan on having one, and the ones that were on the big events, we have the smaller cook-off or pancakes or hamburgers or hot dogs
Something I
or whatever.
didn't mention that I'm also talking about is doing a Young Eagle event in which we invite the kids out to get a discovery flight. We think now, initially we thought we would combine a fly-in with the Young Eagle event. We decided, that's what you said, that's too much to handle, to take on initially, so we invited, chose to divvy them up, and now we're thinking that the Young Eagle event may just have to be postponed until after the summer, after we have more members, more money, and a little more experience in planning time to plan.
And of course, there in summer it gets hot.
Yeah, we don't want events in summer, it's too hot for kids to enjoy, and it's bumpy. When you go flying in summertime, it's really bumpy and not very fun.
Well, and of course, you know, if we can plan stuff now for maybe like in the fall, we do something in the fall, maybe in the spring or something like that, we have time now to be able to put that in our budget for next year, but where we can, if we have a dollar amount that will cost for these bigger events, then we can actually put the money in the budget for that allocation, get that approved for those events, which would be great. But I still think we need to be probably doing something before next fall, but maybe on a smaller scale, whatever. I don't know, I haven't been to the meetings, but I think, I definitely think we definitely want to support it. We do it as the city supports having that. And I think having it open to the public, not just for the fly-in, but try to figure out some way that the public can go out there. Because again, we talked about it, a lot of people in Cleveland don't even know we have an airport. You know, and to get people to go out there for some of these events, to be able to see what exactly we do have, because it's a great thing.
Hang on, give me just 1 second. Let's Greg go. Greg.
Well, all I want to say, I think whatever we do, we need to do well. The first thing we do out of the gate, right? So whatever level of, you know, however many activities we have, or however small or large an event is, I think we need to really put an effort on quality so that we create that good first impression for the community, so that as we build on that going forward, it creates its own energy for people to come. If we put out something in a rush and it flops, that'll be the reputation the next time we try to get out there. So I think we should be mindful.
Mr. Woodson?
Well, this fine is not really.
Johnny, will you step up to the podium, and tell us?
Johnny Whitson, and I live at the Cleveland Airport. I'm just going to tell you that fly-ins are not new to the Cleveland Airport. We've been doing it for years. And a while back we had a flying club called Cleveland Area Aviators Flying Club. And we did an event probably at least 3 times a year and a minimum of 2 times a year. And we did things like flower bombing contest and spot landing contest. And what we would do is we'd print a flyer when we decided to do it. We just, some of our students that were learning how to fly, they would fly them up to Lufkin and Nacogdoches and Livingston, put the flyers out there at BO or wherever. So we had a lot of traffic coming from that. a lot of competition when we did things like that. The spotlighting and the flower walk, a lot of fun. We never did food truck, we did, hamburgers and hot dogs, burn them over there, and, people would, donate for that kind of thing. Sometimes we did it in conjunction with a car club, where we'd have cars come in, so, you have some other activity besides just airplanes. But we've always had static displays there too. Like on this one, we're planning a Stearman there, so there's, something for the public to look at. And, we put a sign out on the fence that's coming up. And then when it finally comes up, you have a lot of traffic just coming right off 787. And then, now that we have social media, it's probably gonna be a lot more dramatic. It's not hard, but it does take some planning and it does take some money. So, Greg was involved with, flying that we had before. They're a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be that dramatic that we're going through it. It's just, you just plan it, you spend a little bit of money on it. The things that we're asking for is like porta potties, ice, some people to help with parking, vests. The city probably has plenty of vests that they can give up. And, have a fire department come out there with that brand new truck they got. Show that off, and then get a couple of police officers in there to wash their cars and bring them up there to look at that. We're promoting the Cleveland Airport and the city of Cleveland. That we've always been. I've always been pro Cleveland and pro the Cleveland Airport. I've been out there for 30 years now. So I want it to grow, I want it to do well, and this is just one way to introduce, like Scott said, there's tons of people that don't even know we have there. So we get them out there and show them how much fun we can have, and it just doesn't have to be dramatic. There's a lot of people that are getting a little too dramatic about this, because it's not. It's just we need a little money, some input, and some volunteers.
And I have a,
Thank you, John.
a reference to money, would the city be willing to have a fuel special for a fly-in? That, on a flyer, that always encourages people to fly in if they're going to get a discount.
It's already special.
We have a great thing going with the lower price of fuel, obviously by the sales, but on a fly-in, that always encourages pilots to, let's go down to Cleveland and get a hamburger and get some cheap gas.
Lufkin does it every Sunday.
Yeah.
They sell a lot of hamburgers on Sundays, because you discount on it too.
So,
That's what works.
that works. I don't know if the city would be willing to do that. I feel that out as far as money.
Well, it's costing more money. But no, that is something that we definitely have talked about, is that when we do special events, that we could offer, the common markup is 50 cents right now, lower than 25 cents markup, so we are still able to make some money off of it, but to be able to encourage people to come, So that's definitely something I know Dick knows how to maneuver all that, and, be able to change the fuel prices, to do it for like the one-day flying, and like you said, Lufkin does that on it. So that's definitely something we talked about doing.
So I have dealt with Scott on this issue in the airport now, obviously before Vicky was on board, for several months. And this has never been even a discussion. Scott has been on board on doing just what he said. Was hoping to get to a point to do two, fairly large events a year, and then trying to do a pancake breakfast every Saturday morning or something like that, just to have people coming in on a regular routine basis. I agree with Johnny. I don't think this is a big deal to plan it. We got to fund it. We need to know how much the funding is. It's a little different now with the city. The city, if you ask the municipality, there are a lot of businesses these days, a lot of larger businesses. I had somebody approach me this morning on a large donation deal, and I budget back in October for my donations for this whole year. We haven't done anything more than this. Usually they're gone by March 1st. But, same thing, you know, in regards to this. But I do believe that we have ways of creating the funds, for this fund. As Scott said, I think between the city and possibly UBC or, other avenues, I think we do have the funds to do this. I would like to see one, you know, the size, I understand, and I agree with Greg that we need to, the first one we do out of the box, needs to be, I believe, done very, very correctly. Because that is the way the public's gonna see it, for sure. And I would like to see one done too. It's gonna promote the airport, it's gonna promote the city, it's gonna promote aviation. I mean, what else do you want? Thoughts, Eddie Lowry?
I'm definitely on board for it. I think it's a great thing. People are interested in the airport right now. And we need to do things while people are interested. I do agree with Greg as far as the quality of the thing. It needs to be planned out from A to Z, parking, bodies, everything. People at the gate, who's going to be there, vendors, all of that. So,
And it looks like they're doing their due diligence on it.
yeah, I know nothing about planning and things like that. I leave it to my wife.
Well, we've done it before, so, I mean, we have something to fall back on, and you asked about,
And if you don't mind,
excuse me, you asked about the cost.
Yeah.
And this is old information, but it might give you a general idea. I have a hangar on the grass strip at, I think, Waterloo and Shepherd.
Yeah.
And we had 2 or 3 fly-ins there, 7, 8, 9 years ago, so it's old information. But, of course, that was before social media, and you typically have 25 airplanes would show up, and the community doesn't have a lot of money, but those of us on the airstrip each donated about $100. I think we put in $1,200, and that was enough to provide all the food and cover all the expenses that were necessary for that thing. So that's old information, but even today, if it was twice as much, it would be terrible.
Johnny,
Yeah,
kill her, Johnny, you're killing me.
I'm sure we're looking at $10,000 more to do this.
Oh, no.
I think that's too much.
No, half that.
I want it to be quality.
You're not gonna spend it. I don't think you can.
Okay, good. We'll ask you for it. Yes.
I don't think we're, I think anybody would do 10,000 is. Johnny is joking with that, by the way.
Once you publish this on Facebook, it's going to go to 70,000 people. 70,000.
Same as every fly in there.
But this will be the first one here.
Well, I know, but these fly-ins are nothing new to us. If you, on social media, you want to find a fly-in, any weekend, any time of year, you can find them. I mean, they're just, I think Larry just mentioned that. You gotta be careful when you fly. You're gonna be right on top of somebody else's until they're like Charles, and then they gotta choose. You're gonna be on top of, they had a deal the other day at, it's not like the grass strip down at, the grass strip down at Fairland. Yeah, no, man, I just don't like them.
Donna?
No, I'm not down in West College, but anyways, they had one down there the other day, you know, they got a lot of people. But the point is that, yes, it's gonna go to, as soon as we put it on there, it's gonna go to a lot of people, but all of them, you know, all of them get advertised all over social media.
Well, I think we also need to advertise here in Cleveland. We need to let the public know, because they're the ones that don't know about here, or what it has to offer. And so we need to get that information out to the public, whether it's schools inviting kids or, people that look at planes or look at cars, whatever it might be, we've got to get the public involved.
I noticed sometime when I drive down in front of the Walmart, there's a sign overhead. I guess that's something the city puts up to advertise events. I mean, I don't think that in itself would probably attract a lot of people.
Well, that's not an easy obstacle either. That's a TxDOT road, you gotta go through TxDOT approval and.
But, and I do agree.
It can be done.
There's a lot of people in the city, you'd be very surprised how many people in the city do not know that there's an airport right here in Cleveland, Texas. I think the most amount of questions that we've had, probably with all of us, is since the runway lights.
How long?
They see all those lights at night and they go, oh my gosh, we have a runway, well, we have an airport. So we definitely want to promote our airport, promote our city, and promote aviation for sure. So what is the next step, I guess, is the question for applying. Not everybody's talk at once.
Caution.
A big check.
Austin and where it's going to come from.
Okay.
So, the airport is making money, we should have an airport fund. I'm sure it's not big or large, but, let's say the airport puts in $2,000, we might could get a $2,000 grant from EDC or something like this. We're gonna have to open the pocketbook here if we're gonna promote this thing.
And I do believe that whoever mentioned it, I think you mentioned it, that the fuel sales for that day, I would think, are definitely going to increase for sure. But even if they don't, being a businessman myself, you got to spend money on advertising. It's just the way it works. And I would like to see us find the funds. Eddie's got a good point. I mean, if we have a little bit of money or enough money in our airport budget currently to come up with a couple of grand, and maybe EDC can match it.
What about hotel fund?
There's also too, we can make you go through the budget process, which, we did budget for this because didn't have the airport at that point. This is all new. If this event's in October, then we can do all kinds of it. Right now, there's no money in the budget for the airport for this. There's no money for the civic center to go, or hotel motel fund to go towards this. There's no money in the EDC budget to go for this. But I'll be taken out of those, but that's usually through the budget process. I mean, we can do budget amendments and different things, but now you're talking still a process. Do each of those boards, getting those boards approve it, they go to council, get the council approve it, get those funds. So, but first thing we need is the planning and find out what it's going to cost, so we can even figure out how we're going to come up with those funds.
So, again, I always tell everybody on these boards that the wheels of government move very slowly. And the problem with that situation is here. Today is March the 7th, March the 7th. And so our next meeting isn't going to be until April the 4th. If we don't have something together then it will be postponed until May the 2nd. We'll have something then, so on and so on. So,
Who's actually going to be in charge of this? Who is the one individual who is looking to set this up?
Larry has volunteered to do it unless someone on the board or something, or the city has an issue with that. I should know. Larry is experienced with it. He's done these before. He probably has more knowledge on fly-ins and I know more than they've forgot more than I know.
So Larry has been facilitating weekly meetings on Wednesday at 5:30 over at Johnny's Airport. If he's invited to those, Scott, whoever else would like to, maybe actually, I don't know, but, so that's where we have that planning process set up.
And he's donating his time to do it.
Exactly. And someone was asking me that step, I think Larry mentioned we're doing a process of putting flashcards on these so that we can actually define a dollar amount instead of coming in with asking for a blank check kind of thing, so. So really, I think.
Well, I don't know necessarily that this truly has to come back to this board, because we don't, I think that everybody on this board would agree with what Washington. I don't think anybody's against that. So if he could come up with that price sooner than later, then we can give, if he could get with Vicky, myself, Scott, one of us, me, I don't have a problem with it. I talked to Scott on a very, very, very good basis. And obviously Vicky too. And if we can come up with Rogers, just tell me that we were.
So what that was,
No. I sit on 3 boards, so I have to deal with him all the time. But then we can, hopefully, we can figure out how to come up with some.
Okay.
Nikki made a long list.
Nikki made a long list yesterday at our planning meeting on things that we think we need, and I'll get that from him, and I'll take the time to the next week to make phone calls, get as much information on cost that I can, then I'll present it to you. I won't wait until next month. I'll present it to you.
And is everybody okay with this? Greg? Hubert? Okay. No,
Would I be wrong in saying let's shoot for October?
I'd like to see one sooner, personally. I know that Nick would like to wait a little bit.
I wouldn't mind, like Scott said, the first one is just buying up some pancakes, getting some planes in, some cheap gas. Budget in October, now we've got the money, everything is properly laid out, now we can put on a show. That's the way I see it.
I mean, it's just a suggestion, shoot me down, that's fine, I don't mind. I just want this thing to really be a good show.
Okay, so, and here you go, this is what a board's about, everybody has differences of opinion. My opinion is this, we currently have people that are willing to do the work, the legwork, they're wanting to do this, the people that are active at our airport, very active at our airport.
So let's move it up.
Yes, I say that we move it up, I say that let's get after it, let's get it done, let's get it, let's work.
I'm for it.
One concern I see is a city's idea of a fly-in probably is different than what USP is a fly-in.
That fly-in
We're on the
that
same page as far as
that
what.
fly-in that we saw on that TV is nothing like we will ever have in Cleveland, Texas. It is the largest fly-in in the entire world.
A fly-in from an aviator standpoint is different than a city's bring the community to the airport day. I mean, they could be mixed, they could be simultaneously done, but that's a different animal. And we need to be careful that the city's expectation is consistent with what, EA's, weekend flying.
I would be happy as we progress in our plans, be happy to report the progress to this board on a monthly basis up until the point of having the event.
Let's, I think Hugh's going there. Where Hugh's going, I think, right. Give me an idea, Larry. What would you hope to expect on planes flying under?
Numbers, you mean?
Yeah, what would you hope to expect?
My guess, and Johnny could probably have an input, and Greg as well, but with social media, by spreading flyers, 10 years ago, we had 25 airplanes coming in. With social media today, and the date I think is important, you can't do it if they're having one pick a date. It's not going to be May 4th now because of that conflict, but maybe the next week, may have gone too late because we don't want to be into the summertime. But say we did it in the middle of May, I would think that we could have 40, 50 airplanes.
So I think that's where Hugh was going. For us, I don't want the city to think that we're going to have 400.
No. That's not what we're worried about. We're about how much of the general public is going to show up and need that, because if we're using the city's money, we have to invite all of them to it.
That's
You
my
can't
point is
exclude
the
them.
fly-ins, the city, they have different expectations as far as a carnival, stuff for the kids, jump out, but that kind of stuff, where a fly-in is not normally, people flying in, you know, hangar talking and eating and, you know, community and fellowship. But I just want to make sure that we're not, the city's not expecting.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're talking about, is like if you're doing a hamburger, a hot dog, or a pancake, it's more of just a aviation fly and give them a discount. You're not gonna really invite the public to that. I mean, you may put some flyers out, information out, but if you're doing a car show, you're doing these drops and, you know, which I think that's awesome, you know, but I think that's where you invite the public and you make it a big event. Then you may have a couple hundred people fly in, and you may have a whole bunch of people from the community, which is what you want, because you have a public car show. You have, I'm hoping, an airplane show where you put the airplanes out and people can walk around, look at the different airplanes and talk to the different people and have some carnival rides and have some different events, you know, talk to food trucks or whatever. You're right, there's two different scales, you know, and so.
And I don't think that's the scale that they're wanting to do it all.
Right.
They're just wanting to fly.
No, they want vendors, tents, chairs, vendors, fire trucks, police cars, city employees, all the cones and barriers, the banners, vendors, all of that. It'll be one place.
I think I had a wrong idea. I'll relate it to the Con Festival in Mississippi. A friend of mine started that to save his farm. And he put on a show of having drag horses pulling and had dogs and sheep. And we went to it last year, and that thing is so big, it was 30,000. He had 400 vendors. He had a rooster contest. He had Mr. and Miss Con, King and Queen, which, you know, you have to be 5 years old or less. That thing was so big, and he's so far out in the country, they got to pump sunshine. But I'm telling you, for 3 days, that's all they do is whole family. That one event a year. And this year they've had about 100-something acres. They're just expanding. The county's going in there and building a new bridge because they can't get trucks across that whole wooden bridge that they built. So I'm telling you, this could be something like that. That's what I wanted to do.
Well, it could, but it's not gonna, this first one's nothing, it's not gonna be anything like that. It's gonna,
They build up over time based on the success and the quality and word of mouth. And each time, we have in Shepherd, each time there'll be more airplanes each year, and it's probably what we have to do as well.
That's what I hope this will turn into.
right, then here's down the road.
How much public do you think will show up?
Public, people, not many, I mean, you, unfortunately, just, you know, unfortunately, people do not look at aviation like these people right here, your general public doesn't. Less than 1% of people in the United States have a pilot's license.
I mean, they'll be coming for the other stuff that's being put
Not,
on.
not like you think, but yes, I mean, and I don't know what you're talking about on other stuff, I wasn't at that meeting, but, I think that's the misconception right here, is I think that possibly, these people right here we know what a fly-in is. There's the fly-in at Shepherd, for example. I've been to ones in Louisiana for breakfast, for lunch, for, you know, their monthly fly-ins and stuff. Oshkosh is just in a world of its own. Your larger fly-ins that, Lake Charles a couple of years ago, last year, I guess, I think they may have had, I was there, they may have 40 or 50 planes there. And a lot of them were, you know, cool experimentals and, you know, stuff like that. But then, you know, there's probably 20 or 30 of those, and then the others were the regular planes that weren't I declare a Cherokee 6 and archers and stuff, you know, just stuff that's been over there. But, and then the public it's not like the air show it used to be. You know, it's nothing like that. You're not going to have, I don't believe you're going to have just hundreds of people show up for a plane. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong? Okay, you're expecting hundreds of people?
Okay, the last big one we had, what hangar are you on? F hangar. We had parallel parking down both sides, blocking the hangar. And then we had parking on each side of that. So there was probably 70 cars there. And then on number 8, in the old hangar, we had the same thing come down both sides. Now, that's just putting them in there, and if they come and go, they'll come in, they'll walk around with their stuff, and they'll leave. But there is a lot of cars. Not on all aliens, or there are people like this that say, hey, there's something to do at the Cleveland Airport today, so they load their family up, and they come together. And then when we get them there, then we have to have something for them to do. So that's what Discovery Flights are all about. So a hammer and a hot dog, a Discovery Flight. That's what we do. So there's a lot of people. Now the fly-in thing, we've had the Cleveland Air Races. You've seen the posters on the wall out there. Those we probably had between 30, about around 30 airplanes that flew into those just for the race. Yeah, it was kind of a big event. And you also got to remember, Cleveland's not very big when you start putting airplanes. The footprint of an airplane is pretty large.
Yes.
So we don't have enough ground space to do that many airplanes. We don't. They'll have to start going on the grass. And then if we have car parking, they're going to take up all those spots around those hangars. So then we're going to have to park on the north end out by the Quonset hut, or airplanes parked up there. It's not that difficult, and it's a lot of fun. As soon as you guys do one, you're going to say, hey, we got to do that again. But I don't see why we can't do one in May before it gets hot, and do another one in October. And like Larry was saying, the EAA can't be in conjunction with the city. So when we plan that one, we have to just say to the city, it's not saying you can't come out there, but it's not going to be part of the city. Young Eagles, that's what we're so the EA Young Eagles cannot be involved with the city. I mean, the city can't be putting on something at the same time, because that's just the way the EAA does that one. But I'm not saying there won't be people that will know about it. It just can't be a city-sponsored event when we're doing the Young Eagles. But the Discovery Flight is a whole different thing. That's just volunteers of the guys that are at the airport. They got a 172 or a Super Cub or something, and we sign them up and say, here you go, we'd like you to go at $20 a ride. And what we do is we take off, you go to the 16, we go on into 16, we follow 321, we fly over downtown Cleveland, and we come back on 787, usually do one low pass, just a low pass, not that down, come back around into the pattern and land. It takes about between 12 and 15 minutes depending on the speed of your airplane. So, and then these airplanes that we're talking about, you can either take 2 or 3 passengers, depending on the size of the passenger. But you guys are playing way too much into this. Just give us some money, let us do it. And come and look at it. That's all it is.
Look at it. Well, I'll tell you what, tell us how much money you need, let's start on that first.
Okay. And really the thing is it's just like, we need help with, EAA doesn't have any money right now. So we need help with Fortify, because I already asked Dickie, who does the toilets in there. He said he did, he's going to shut them off. Well, you can't have an event with no toilets. The food thing, that's, like, we can decide on that as time goes on. But I think we need to go ahead and get one done today. You guys need to come out there and see what we're doing, and we'll show you how it's done.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
We let y'all do this one, we watch, and now we do our big one.
No, this is the city one. You guys forgot, you're doing it all.
Because I know every event that Ashley puts on here in town, I mean, we have record numbers. So,
Okay. Well, let's start with the amount, and see how much we need.
I'll work on that this week, this coming next week.
Good deal. Number 8, we're debating on where to put a grass runway. Vicki and I measured the grass on the east side of the runway, which was 210 foot. I think Vicki's kind of checking on that. Eddie Lowry's been on the topic of grass runways, and so I think that's kind of, we're just still doing research on where to put the grass runway. In short on it. Anything else on the grass runway? Anything on old business or new business? We have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion from Eddie Lowry, a second from Bob Bartlett to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned.
You know,